Hi, welcome back. Thanks so much for dropping in again. Today you find me in the master bedroom where we're going to be doing a refresh. And if you're new, hello, my name is Tracy and welcome to my home here in Sussex, England. Along with the bedroom refresh, we are going to be making over a rocking chair. A few weeks ago, I had an impromptu haul with my daughter and we found this fabulous rocking chair for just £12.50. I think she's quite got her eye on it, so I don't know how long I'm going to have custody of it, but I thought ideal opportunity to show you how I do my crackle glaze effect. I've had so many of you ask me, how do I do it using just glue? But before we get to the rocking chair, let's start with the refresh. And we're going to start with the bed, which is the most important thing in a bedroom at the end of the day, isn't it? And that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the room. I love my neutrals, as you know, and I particularly love this washed linen, this not having to iron bedding anymore look. I love layering up and adding texture and just creating those cozy vibes. And I love this knitted pillow, the one in the middle, the taupe one that I got from TK Maxx a few years ago. I had some big feather pads that I wanted some new covers for, and I found these on Amazon and I couldn't believe it. They were actually the same brand as that taupe cushion in the middle. So I ordered two of them in a slightly smaller size than the pad because I like my covers to fit quite snugly. They're really good value. I think they're about £18 each. I'll link them below in the description. So these three big cushions are great just running along the back there, and I'm just going to add one smaller one that is a different texture at the front. The little rosette there actually came off a Kate Spade coat that my daughter bought, and she doesn't like anything too fussy. So I said, oh, I've got a cushion that will match that perfectly. Auction Fine Chaise Longue seems to have found its permanent home at the end of the bed here. And I just use a very simple cushion and throw on it. It's a lovely place just to kind of perch, you know, to snuggle up, read a book. But the bed definitely needs something else on it. And this is what's going to go on. This chenille blanket is unbelievably soft. It's like having a huge cuddle every time you get underneath it because it's got some real weight to it. Now, this is in a buttermilk and it's the perfect colour for this room. I could not believe it when I opened the packaging and thought, oh my lordy, it's perfect, absolutely perfect. Super soft, really easy to maintain because it'll go through the washing machine. I suppose you could have it dry cleaned if you wanted to, but it will go through the washing machine and I love it. I just absolutely love it. It's by a company called Y&M, which stands for You and Me, which I think is really super cute. And today I've got 20% off for you. Now let's get this on the bed and I'll tell you some more about it. So this is a Super King bed, just to give you some idea of scale. The throw is 60 inches by 80 inches and it's the large that Y&M do. And the thing I love about it is that it actually comes up even larger, so you can get that lovely drape down each side of the bed. And I've really struggled to find cost-effective throws that will do that, and this one is certainly cost-effective, and even more so today, because if you're in the market for some new throws, then 20% off if you use the discount code Rural Refurb at the checkout. I'm going to pop all the details in the description box below, so there'll be a link there that will take you straight through to the website, and if you are in the market for a new throw, then don't forget to use that discount code. I think these will look good in any room, regardless of what your interior design style is. So pop over and have a look. Now, back over to the rocking chair. Let's get started on this. £12.50 for a rocking chair that is completely solid. There's not one loose part on it at all. Nothing's broken. Okay, it's had a bad varnish job at some stage and that's lifting, but that's just cosmetic. And actually, I quite love it when a piece is like that because it puts other people off from buying it and leaves the bargains for me. If I was going to just paint this, I would give it a really good sand down and then I'd probably get my sprayer out and blow it over because chairs take so long to paint really smoothly and properly that it's just not worth doing it with a brush. But we're not going for a perfect finish. We're getting the glue out and we're gonna slather this baby. You can use any glue for this process. I normally wouldn't use wood glue because it's expensive, but this is really old. So I'm going to tip some of it out and then I'm going to do a trial run to make sure that it is still going to work, that it's still active. One thing you shouldn't do is brush it all on smoothly in neat lines. You want to create some crazy cracking. So put your glue on in all different directions. Different thicknesses will create different sizes of cracks. Now I've got some Annie Sloan Paris Grey here, which I've gone right off. So I use this when it's not going to be visible. We're doing a test run here, so I'm going to paint the chair in chalk paint. So I'll just use that Paris Grey up. So once I've painted over the board, you mustn't overwork the glue. Just get the paint on. Don't be tempted to go back. I'm putting a heat gun on it. The sun is out, but there are different opinions on whether or not to use a heat gun. Some people prefer not to, and they think they get better cracking by just allowing it to go through naturally. I have a life to live, quite frankly, and I need to crack on. So I want this to crack quickly. I've got the heat gun out. You're actually watching this crack in real time. I've not speeded this up or cut chunks out. It really cracks this quickly if you've got the heat. Obviously, temperature and humidity have a huge part to play in the drying process. Now, you may be wondering why I'm not using two different paint colours. That's because I want the wood to show through. So wherever you put your glue, that surface underneath there is the surface that is going to show through in the cracks. I've got this old liquid wax here, and I'm ashamed to say this tin is 25 years old. It was at a time when antique pine floors were the thing. You know, life has moved on, but the tin has survived. So I'm going to try actually adding this stain on, see if I can just save my expensive dark wax and use this up, but I think it's coming out a little bit orange for me. So I always start with a really good wash, even though I'm not going to be sanding at this stage, that will come later. I'm going to give it a good clean, let it dry, and then I think I'm going to use French linen on this one. I sometimes see this as grey and I sometimes see it as a taupe, and I don't know why that is. I'm actually going to pour a little bit into a tub, and I'm not going to use my big chalk paint brushes. I'm going to use an old flat brush because the paint is going over the glue. So the first thing I do is put the glue on. Now, I've found through bitter experience that you've got to really be careful on the drying time of the glue. So I believe with some of these crackle glazed mediums, you leave them to dry for hours. I think personally they're just like posh glue anyway, and they do cost a lot of money. With the glue, it depends on which type of glue you're using. So make sure you read the label on the drying time of the glue, because what you're looking for, the optimum, is for it to be tacky. So as you touch it, it's just like a film is appearing on it. That's the time then to go in with your paint, and then when you're ready, do it in sections and then follow on with a heat gun or a hairdryer if you want to speed up that drying process. I'm using a quick drying glue here today, so I'm going to work in sections: glue, paint, dry, and then move on. Now that's all covered and I'm going to leave that to dry and do some floral arrangements. I've been collecting all the way through the summer different flowers, grasses, bundling them up and then hanging them in the garage somewhere cool and dark in order for them to dry out. I'm using my last few pieces now to create 2 displays for the windows in the bedroom. It doesn't matter how much I collect, I always end up needing more. The bunny tails in here I actually grew from a packet of seeds in the cut flower bed. I had no idea whether they would come up or not, and they did. Not very long stems, but that's fine because they just catch in the arrangement. Back to the bedroom now for some more decorating. So each of these displays will go in the 2 windows either side of the bed. I've got the bedside tables there with the lamps on and the 2 chairs, and I mirror so it's exactly the same either side. I'm going to keep the decorations really simple in here. I like this to be a very calm, tranquil space. There's all sorts going on around the rest of the property, so this is my little retreat, my little haven. I do love a mirror or two. I say a mirror or two. I recently had a count up and I'm now over 100 mirrors across the whole of the properties. That's not just in the main house, that includes the cottage, the verandas, and also in my storage shed as well. But yeah, I think maybe that's classed as an addiction. Who knows? Can you beat that? Have you got more than 100 mirrors? I use them in every size of room because I think they just open up a space. They bring in so much light. They're just such a great styling accessory. Any size, shape of mirror. Yes, please, I am there. Another thing I'm quite fond of is lamps. Now, I've been picking up floor lamps at auction and they're just so lovely to be able to flip. I just use chalk paint, distress them, different waxes, and then I use the coir wrapping technique on the flecks, on the shades. Plus, there are lovely bulbs that you can get these days. So I love using these test tube bulbs with the filaments inside. These are LEDs, so they're super cheap to run. I love the layered look that I've created here, so I'm going to leave that for another season. And I like the different textures there. I picked up an oak one at auction, small one, and it was just the easiest flip because all I had to do was clean it. It was just lovely. So I'm going to add a few books, a few more of the dried grasses from the field. In fact, I dried those not this season, this summer, but last year. So they've survived really well. I love this ladder. I picked it up from Autumnal Antiques Fair, and it was actually a huge long ladder, and the chap had, I think he'd either cut it in half or cut it in three, and he was selling off each piece at £10. Well, I thought that was an absolute bargain, so I spent the whole day walking around the fair carrying a ladder. It was definitely a conversation starter, so I'd highly recommend it. Now the tub chair here I painted up a few months ago. It was originally red. Yes, there is a video on that. And I'm really happy with it as it is. The tones work for autumn. So that is staying there. I am going to switch out the arrangement that I have by the bath. I normally have pampas grass here. But if you saw one of my shop and haul videos, you'll have seen these giant seed heads. I think they're like giant angelica. Obviously they're super safe because they're faux, and they were £2.99 each. Unbelievable bargain from HomeSense. They have got a little bit of glitter on them, which I was going to try and get off because I'm not a glitter gal. But actually, I'm getting quite used to it now. So I think they're just fine as they are. Back to the rocking chair now. Pleased to report it's all dried back exactly as planned. There's lots of lovely cracking, lots of hazing going on there. There is some of the paint that's maybe a bit too thick for me in places, so I'm going to use some 120 grit sandpaper and just gently work my way around, knocking back the lumps, maybe taking out some of the brush marks as well that you can get with chalk paint. Obviously, I'm being supervised intently by my furry assistant Bertie here, who quite frankly looks bored rigid and would rather be running across the fields. But he knows what I'm like. He just loves to be out here when I'm working. I'm also sanding quite hard back into the wood to distress it and using a wet technique to distress back onto the arms and in various places. So I had a little play around with that wax, that liquid wax that I showed you earlier. It wasn't looking good. So I've got the clear wax out, Sloan clear wax, and the last little bit of my dark wax. I really must get on and get that ordered. I'm running out of it. I just use so much wax. It's just such a great product. So I'm using my big wax brush and I'm applying the clear wax liberally. Now I do this for two reasons. One, it's a great protector. And two, it adds as a great base for putting on a coloured wax. As this is not a large surface expanse, it's not like doing a big table or a dresser, I'm just going to use a rag as opposed to a brush, and that way I've got much more control around those round spindles. Are we calling these spindles? We'll call these spindles. So I've got a lot more control on there. So I'll use the dark wax all over. But if I find that I think I've put too much on, I'll then take a clean rag, pop some clear wax on, and it acts almost like an eraser, like a rubber. It just helps to take it back out, and that way you can control the intensity. If you went on with just dark wax without putting your clear on first, you could end up in a whole heap of trouble because it will go really dark. So I would always recommend put your clear wax on first and then play around with your coloured waxes. Well, I think that's finished. I'm happy with that now. Let's get it back in the house and into position. As always with wax, you need to leave it a good month to cure. It's touch dry after about 24 hours, but I would not be sitting on this, and certainly not in anything white, until after about 4 weeks when it's fully cured. Now I wonder if it is still going to be in this room after 4 weeks, or has my daughter decided it's her turn for custody? Time will tell.